Welcome to True Echo, where every story reflects a deeper truth. Today's story is one of humiliation, injustice, and redemption. It begins with a quiet family vacation, and ends with a moment so powerful, it left an entire hotel staff speechless. If you've ever been judged for how you look, what you wear, or where you come from, this story is for you. Stay with us. The moment the Bailey family walked into the lobby of the Grand Marlowe Hotel, they felt the shift in the air. It wasn't just the icy blast of air conditioning or the polished marble beneath their shoes, it was the hush, the subtle narrowing of eyes, the way the front desk clerk stiffened behind the counter. Vanessa Bailey noticed it first. She always did. Her mother used to say she had a sixth sense for trouble, honed by years of moving through spaces where she didn't quite belong. Tall, striking, with deep brown skin and a graceful confidence honed by experience, Vanessa had dealt with enough of these moments in her 38 years to know this one wasn't going to end well. Her husband, Derek, noticed it too, though he kept his tone light for the kids' sake. "Nice place," he murmured, squeezing Vanessa's hand as their two children, 10-year-old Isaiah and 7-year-old Lila, clutched their tiny backpacks, wide-eyed at the chandelier above them. The front desk clerk, a slim white woman with a neat bun and a brittle smile, barely looked up when Vanessa offered their reservation code. "Bailey, 2 rooms. We booked the family suite last month, under Vanessa Bailey," she said, placing her ID and credit card on the desk with calm professionalism. The clerk scanned the ID, then the Bailey family, then the ID again. "I'm sorry," she said coolly. "We're going to need to verify this booking. It may have been cancelled." Vanessa frowned. "No, it wasn't cancelled. I have the confirmation email right here." The clerk cut her off with a stiff wave of her hand. "One moment." Behind the counter, hushed voices passed between staff. A man in a suit, maybe a manager, walked over, glanced at the Baileys and whispered something to the clerk. Moments later, the clerk turned back, her voice now clipped and loud enough for those in the lobby to hear. "I'm afraid we've had several complaints from other guests about disruptive behavior," she said. "We're going to have to ask you to leave." Vanessa's heart stopped. "What? We just arrived." "You haven't even checked us in," Derek said sharply. "What kind of behavior are you talking about?" "There was a report," the clerk insisted, glancing down at her screen. Loud voices. "A disturbance in the valet area. Security was alerted." Vanessa looked at her husband, who had calmly tipped the valet 10 minutes ago. There had been no scene. No raised voices. Just the wrong family walking through the wrong doors. "Mommy, did we do something bad?" Lila asked quietly, her voice cracking. That broke something in Vanessa. "No," she said gently, kneeling beside her daughter. "You didn't do anything wrong." Behind them, guests had stopped pretending not to look. Phones were out. A couple whispered to each other. Someone laughed. The manager stepped forward, voice smug now. "I'm afraid we're asking you to leave. If you don't cooperate, we'll have to call the authorities." Vanessa stood slowly, fury and heartbreak clashing inside her. But she knew better than to fight right now, not here, not in front of her kids. Not when her skin alone would be used to justify whatever version of the truth this hotel wanted to tell. Derek wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Let's go," he said tightly. They walked out as the sun set behind them, humiliated, disrespected, and broken in front of their children. But they weren't done yet. They sat in silence in their SUV for a long time. The parking garage felt cold and cavernous around them, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Derek stared at the steering wheel, jaw tight. Vanessa ran a hand through Lila's hair, trying to soothe the tremble she could feel in her daughter's small frame. Isaiah looked out the window, blinking hard. Vanessa's heart shattered a little more. She had prepared her children for a lot. The talks about unfairness, about standing tall, about how to protect their dignity in a world that often tried to strip it away. But nothing prepares you to watch your kids see it happen in real time, to watch the hope flicker in their eyes when they realize that sometimes being good, polite, prepared, doesn't matter. "I'm sorry," Derek said finally, voice hoarse. Vanessa shook her head. "No. No apologies. Not from us." The silence pressed down again before Vanessa inhaled sharply, gathering herself. She pulled her phone from her bag, fingers flying across the screen. Derek watched her, confused. "What are you doing?" Vanessa's eyes gleamed with a fire he hadn't seen in a long time, reminding them who they just messed with. She scrolled to her contacts and hit dial. It rang twice before a smooth, polished voice answered. "Good evening, Miss Bailey." "Richard," Vanessa said, keeping her voice calm, "I'm going to need a favor." It didn't take long. Within 15 minutes, a sleek black car arrived. A man in a dark suit stepped out, eyes scanning the garage until he spotted them. He approached with a warm smile. "Mrs. Bailey. Mr. Bailey. The Waldron awaits your arrival." Derek blinked. "The Waldron? As in the five-star hotel that doesn't tolerate discrimination," Vanessa said simply. "They're thrilled to have us." The kids looked between their parents, confused but excited. Vanessa smiled at them, gathering their backpacks. "And," she added, eyes glinting, "someone else is about to be a lot less thrilled." Because Vanessa Bailey wasn't just a mom on vacation. She was the chief operating officer of one of the largest hospitality investment firms on the East Coast. And the Grand Marlowe Hotel? It was one of the properties her firm had just begun acquisition talks with. Until tonight. As they pulled out of the parking garage, Vanessa sent one last text. "Cancel negotiations immediately. New buyer directive incoming. Personal involvement. We'll handle directly." She slipped her phone away and turned to her family. "Let's go make some memories," she said, and for the first time that evening her children smiled. Outside the Grand Marlowe, the staff were already buzzing. Word had spread that something wasn't right. But they had no idea just how wrong things were about to get. The next morning, the sun rose bright and unforgiving over the Grand Marlowe Hotel. Inside the manager's office, Jordan Kemp, a man who had made a career out of catering to the right clientele, sipped his coffee and scrolled lazily through emails. Nothing urgent, just a few booking updates, a new wine list for the restaurant, and a meeting reminder for the afternoon. He frowned. There was an email flagged urgent from the regional director of acquisitions. His pulse quickened as he clicked it open. Subject: Immediate suspension of acquisition negotiations, Grand Marlowe. Jordan read it once, then again, panic tightening his chest. Negotiations? Suspension? Personal involvement? The name at the bottom of the email made his stomach turn. Vanessa Bailey. He remembered her now, though he hadn't thought to ask for her full name last night. The way she had stood there with her family, proud but quiet, unwilling to grovel or beg. He thought he could brush them off, treat them like a problem to be removed. He hadn't realized he was humiliating someone powerful enough to decide the future of his hotel. Jordan shot out of his chair, knocking his coffee onto the desk. His hands trembled as he grabbed the phone. "Get the front desk supervisor in here," he barked into the receiver. Moments later, Melissa, the young woman with the tight bun and brittle smile, rushed in. "Yes, sir?" "That family you kicked out last night?" Jordan began, voice rising. "The Baileys. Do you have their contact information?" Melissa paled. I think so. Why?" Jordan shoved the email in her face. "Because you didn't just insult some random family. You insulted the COO of Gentry Holdings. They were planning to buy this hotel. Save this hotel." Melissa's mouth dropped open. I was just following protocol, sir." "They looked like what, Melissa?" Jordan snarled. "Say it." She bit her lip, eyes darting toward the door. She didn't say it, but they both knew what she meant. Black. Poor. Out of place. Jordan cursed under his breath. "Get them on the phone. Now. Beg if you have to." But it was already too late. At the Waldron Hotel across town, the Bailey family sat enjoying a luxurious breakfast. The dining room glowed with golden light. Crystal glasses clinked, soft piano music floated through the air, and waiters moved efficiently, refilling coffee cups and offering warm smiles. No suspicious glances. No whispered judgments. Just respect. Vanessa leaned back in her chair, sipping her orange juice as Isaiah and Lila giggled over their oversized plates of waffles. Derek caught her eye and smiled, a silent thank you passing between them. Her phone buzzed. She picked it up casually, noting the number, the Grand Marlowe. She set it down without answering. "Not today," she said lightly. "Today we celebrate." But the calls kept coming. Then emails. Then a personal letter delivered by courier. Vanessa finally opened it as the kids dashed off to explore the lobby. The letter was thick, printed on the Grand Marlowe's finest stationery, and written in the most groveling corporate language imaginable. Apologies. Misunderstandings. A plea for a second chance. Vanessa read it once, then folded it neatly and placed it aside. She turned to Derek. "They want to meet. Offer an apology." He raised an eyebrow. "You going to take it?" Vanessa smiled, slow and deliberate. "Oh, I'll listen." But it wouldn't be them who dictated the terms. Back at the Grand Marlowe, the lobby buzzed with nervous energy. Staff polished counters to a mirror shine, set out fresh flowers, and hovered near the front desk like anxious bees. When the Baileys finally arrived, the whole building seemed to hold its breath. Jordan Kemp personally rushed forward, all smiles and sweaty palms. Ms. Bailey, Mr. Bailey, welcome back. Please allow me to personally apologize for the misunderstanding yesterday. Vanessa stood tall in a tailored navy dress, her hair gleaming, her posture regal. There was no misunderstanding, she said coolly. You judged my family by our skin, by our clothes. And you treated us like criminals. Jordan's smile faltered. Of course. It was unacceptable. We'd like to offer you a complimentary stay. Vanessa held up a hand, silencing him. I don't want your free nights or empty apologies. Around them, guests had started to watch, sensing something big unfolding. I want systemic change. Diversity training. New hiring policies. Public acknowledgement of what happened. Jordan's face flushed red. Ms. Bailey, surely we can handle this discreetly. Vanessa leaned in, voice steady but electric. Nothing about what happened to my children was discreet. You humiliated us publicly. You will apologize publicly. Jordan opened his mouth, then closed it, defeated. Behind Vanessa, Isaiah and Lila stood proudly, watching their mother with wide, awestruck eyes. This was how you fight back. With dignity. With power. With truth. The silence that fell across the marble-floored lobby of the Grand Marlowe was deafening. Guests froze, bellhops hesitated mid-step, and even the receptionist at the far desk pretended to rearrange papers while keeping an ear trained toward the confrontation unfolding at the heart of their pristine hotel. Jordan Kemp cleared his throat, sweat beading at his temple. He had faced lawsuits before, corporate audits, even public relations crises, but nothing had prepared him for this. For a woman like Vanessa Bailey standing in front of him, unshaken, demanding justice on behalf of her family. Of course, Ms. Bailey, he said finally, forcing the words through a clenched jaw. We can arrange a formal statement. An apology posted on our website, perhaps. Vanessa's eyes hardened. Not good enough. Jordan flinched like he'd been slapped. Then what would you suggest? Vanessa didn't blink. You will apologize right here. In front of every guest and staff member present. You will acknowledge that your hotel discriminated against my family based on appearance alone. And you will commit, publicly, to change. A murmur rippled through the lobby. Phones started to rise, guests discreetly filming, sensing a spectacle they could not look away from. Jordan's face turned a dangerous shade of crimson. His hands trembled as he smoothed down his tie. He opened his mouth to argue, to salvage what little dignity he had left, but the regional director of Gentry Holdings stepped into the lobby just then, flanked by a small group of impeccably dressed associates. And the look on his face said very clearly, fix this. No. Jordan swallowed hard. He stepped onto the nearest marble step that overlooked the lobby, his voice booming through the ornate space. Ladies and gentlemen, he called, drawing the full attention of every person in the lobby, I would like to take a moment to address a grave mistake made by this establishment. A heavy pause. Yesterday we unfairly judged and mistreated one of our guests, Mrs. Vanessa Bailey and her family, based on unconscious bias and unacceptable assumptions. This behavior is not in line with the values we claim to uphold, and for that, we offer our deepest and most sincere apologies. He glanced helplessly at Vanessa, who remained stone-faced, watching. We recognize the harm caused, he continued. Effective immediately, the Grand Marlowe will implement comprehensive staff training focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will review our hiring practices. And we will strive to ensure that no guest ever experiences what the Bailey family endured. There it was. A full admission. Public, irreversible. The lobby remained frozen for a long heartbeat. Then someone clapped. One, then two, then dozens. A slow, rising applause filled the air, drowning out the background music, until even the walls seemed to vibrate with it. Some clapped out of solidarity, others out of guilt, but they clapped all the same. Jordan stepped down, face ashen, and Vanessa turned to gather her family. As they walked toward the doors, heads high, a few guests murmured words of apology. Others stepped aside respectfully, making way for them like royalty. The sun outside was brilliant as they stepped into it, a sharp, beautiful light that seemed to wipe away the grime of the past 24 hours. Isaiah tugged Vanessa's sleeve. Mom, that was awesome. Vanessa knelt, looking him straight in the eye. Baby, remember this. You never let anyone decide your worth. Not with their words. Not with their looks. You already know who you are. Isaiah nodded solemnly. Beside him, Lila beamed, squeezing her mother's hand. And for the first time since the nightmare had begun, Vanessa felt it. Not just anger, not just grief, but a fierce, soaring pride. They had tried to strip her dignity. Instead, they had helped her show her children what real power looked like. The ride back to the Waldron was quiet but full of unspoken emotions. Vanessa stared out the window, one hand resting lightly on Lila's shoulder as the car wound through the bustling streets of downtown. Derek reached over, entwining his fingers with hers, his grip warm and steady. "You were incredible back there," he said softly. Vanessa exhaled, a slow, trembling breath. "I had to be. For them." Derek smiled, but there was sadness behind it. "You shouldn't have to be." They both knew it was true. In a better world, dignity wouldn't have to be demanded. Apologies wouldn't have to be fought for. Respect wouldn't be conditional. But this wasn't that world. Not yet. At the Waldron, they were welcomed back like honored guests. The manager personally escorted them to a newly upgraded presidential suite, an expansive room with sweeping city views, luxury amenities, and most importantly, a deep, almost aggressive warmth from the entire staff. It was the kind of welcome that made you remember, you did belong. You always had. That evening, as the golden light faded into deep blue twilight, Vanessa sat on the private balcony, a laptop balanced on her knees. She pulled up her email again, the one from the Grand Marlowe's legal team. They were offering more now, a full written apology published in major newspapers, free stays at any Marlowe property for life, a sizable donation to a civil rights foundation of her choosing. It was tempting. But she wasn't looking for freebies. She was looking for something deeper. She clicked reply, and began to type. "Thank you for your offer. However, my conditions remain unchanged. Public apology. Public accountability. Long-term policy changes verified by third-party audits annually. Until then, there will be no reconsideration of acquisition talks." She hit send without hesitation. Vanessa turned her head as Isaiah and Lila barreled onto the balcony, laughing, barefoot, holding plates of chocolate cake from room service. "Mom, come eat with us," Isaiah shouted, chocolate already smearing his face. She laughed, a full, unrestrained laugh, and set the laptop aside. Tonight wasn't about business or battles. Tonight was about reclaiming joy. They sat together under the darkening sky, the city lights flickering below them like 1,000 tiny stars. They ate cake with their fingers, told silly jokes, and made up stories about the people in the windows across the city. And for the first time since they'd arrived in this city, Vanessa let herself relax. Let herself be simply here, a mother, a wife, a woman who had survived yet another trial and turned it into a lesson, a legacy for her children. It was imperfect. It was messy. It was beautiful. The next morning brought an unexpected call. The front desk rang up to the suite. There was a visitor asking for Vanessa. Curious, she slipped on a casual jacket and headed downstairs. In the elegant lobby of the Waldron stood a woman she didn't recognize immediately. Tall, blonde, impeccably dressed, but with none of the brittle polish she associated with the Marlowe staff. This woman looked genuine. Nervous. She stepped forward, hand extended. "Mrs. Bailey. My name is Charlotte Green. I'm the new interim general manager at the Grand Marlowe." Vanessa arched an eyebrow. "New?" Charlotte flushed slightly. "Effective as of this morning. Jordan Kemp has resigned." Vanessa said nothing, letting the silence stretch. Charlotte swallowed hard. "I know you have no reason to trust anything we say right now. But I want you to know, the changes you demanded are already underway. Diversity training began today. We're bringing in outside consultants. We're revising every policy from the ground up." Vanessa watched her carefully. "This isn't just about salvaging a deal," Charlotte said, voice trembling slightly. "It's about doing what should have been done a long time ago." For a long moment, Vanessa said nothing. Then she nodded, slow, measured. "You have a lot of work ahead," she said quietly. "Don't just fix it for the papers. Fix it for the next family who walks through your doors." Charlotte nodded fervently. "We will." Vanessa turned to go, her work here almost done. But Charlotte called after her. "Mrs. Bailey, one more thing." Vanessa glanced back. Charlotte held out a small envelope, embossed with the Waldron's logo. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for standing up when it was hard. For all of us who couldn't. A grateful employee." Vanessa's throat tightened. Without another word, she slipped the note into her pocket and walked away, her head high, her heart full. 2 weeks later, the world knew. Not just about the Grand Marlowe incident, but about everything. The video of Jordan Kemp's public apology had gone viral, shared by a hotel guest who had captured it in real time. The caption read simply, "They kicked out a black family for bad behavior. They didn't know who she really was." It had millions of views within 48 hours. Major news outlets picked it up. Talk shows debated it. Think pieces flooded social media, some praising Vanessa's poise and courage, others exposing the deep systemic issues within the hospitality industry. Vanessa herself remained quiet. She hadn't asked for fame. She hadn't wanted a spotlight. But she understood the weight of the moment. So when a journalist from a national paper requested a sit-down interview, not about the scandal but about the woman behind it, she finally said yes. They met in a sunlit garden cafe in downtown Savannah, her hometown. The journalist was young, black, sharp-eyed and reverent. She called Vanessa a role model before they even ordered coffee. Vanessa smiled politely. "I'm just a mom who refused to stay silent." The interview touched on everything: her rise through the corporate world, her early days in a tiny one-bedroom apartment with 2 kids and student loans, the sleepless nights, the rejection letters, the microaggressions that piled up like pebbles in her shoe. "I didn't fight that day because I wanted revenge," Vanessa said, her voice calm. "I fought because my daughter thought she had done something wrong. I fought because my son thought silence was safety." The journalist leaned forward. "And what do you want other women, especially black women, to take away from what happened?" Vanessa looked down at her hands, then lifted her gaze. "That we are allowed to take up space. That we belong, even in rooms that weren't built for us. That power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it stands still, holds a child's hand, and demands better." The story ran with the headline: "The Quiet Power of Vanessa Bailey, Mother, Executive, Advocate." And the world responded. Letters poured in. From teachers. From mothers. From hotel workers who'd been mistreated, fired, overlooked. From fathers who saw their daughters in Lila. From kids who said, "You made me feel seen." The Grand Marlowe issued a second, more detailed apology, this time signed by every executive on the board. They launched a diversity scholarship. They partnered with local equity organizations. And yes, under Charlotte's leadership they changed. But the real transformation wasn't in the hotel walls. It was in the voices that grew bolder because of what happened there. Vanessa stood at the window of her office weeks later, gazing at the skyline as the sun dipped low. Her phone buzzed on her desk. Messages from her board, her team, her family. She picked it up, scrolling past them until she landed on a photo Derek had sent earlier that afternoon. It was Isaiah at school, standing at the front of his classroom, giving a presentation titled, "My Mom Changed the World." Vanessa's breath caught. The picture showed him pointing proudly to a slide with her photo on it, hands moving with the confidence of a boy who had seen what courage looked like, who had felt its protection in the middle of a hotel lobby. She smiled, tears prickling her eyes. Not every battle would go viral. Not every injustice would be caught on camera. But maybe, just maybe, her children would face a world slightly more awake, slightly more just, because she hadn't stayed quiet. That night at dinner, Lila asked, "Mommy, are you famous now?" Vanessa chuckled. "I don't know about that." Isaiah chimed in. "But people listen to you." Derek smiled, passing the rice. "She's always had that power." Lila grinned, toothless. "Then I want to be like you." Vanessa leaned in, pressing a kiss to her daughter's forehead. "You'll be even better." The hall was packed wall to wall, every seat taken, every eye turned toward the stage at the front of the Hyatt Convention Center. The National Diversity in Hospitality Conference had never seen attendance like this. Journalists mingled with hotel executives, policymakers sat beside social workers, and young professionals came clutching notepads and inspiration. And at the center of it all stood Vanessa Bailey. She hadn't wanted to give the keynote. Truth be told, she still hated the spotlight. But the organizers had begged, not for the sake of her fame, but because of what her story had sparked. They needed more than an icon. They needed a voice. Vanessa stepped up to the podium, her signature poise intact, her navy pantsuit crisp under the lights. She took a breath, looked out over the sea of faces, and began. 2 months ago, I was asked to leave a hotel because my family didn't look like we belonged there. My children watched as we were judged, dismissed, and shamed. And in that moment, I had 2 choices: accept it, or answer it. The crowd leaned in. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't fight with fists. I did what every black parent has trained their child to do. I stood still, calm, and dignified. But I also stood firm. Because silence, even quiet silence, is not the same as peace. Applause rippled through the crowd. She continued, voice steady. When the apology came, it wasn't just for me. It was for every family who's ever been told by tone, by glance, by policy, "You don't belong here." People nodded. Some wiped tears. Vanessa gestured to the massive screen behind her where a slide read, "Power is not just held, it's modeled. My son now knows his mother didn't let shame win. My daughter knows that her identity isn't a liability. And thousands of families know that they are not alone." The applause grew louder. Some stood. "And to the institutions watching today," she added, voice rising, "I say this, if your spaces don't feel safe for every guest, then your luxury means nothing." By now the entire room was on its feet. She smiled gently, humbly. "We can do better. And we will." She stepped back from the podium, hands trembling slightly as the standing ovation erupted around her. From the front row, Derek stood clapping, pride written across his face. Beside him, Isaiah held up his phone, recording with care. Lila beamed, waving enthusiastically from her seat, as if her mom were a rock star. In that moment, Vanessa felt the full weight of her journey, and the immeasurable lightness of what had come from it. Later that night, after the conference dinner, Vanessa sat alone for a few minutes in the quiet of the hotel garden. A cool breeze moved through the trees, and the lights above glowed soft and golden. Footsteps approached. It was Charlotte Green, the new manager from the Grand Marlowe. She walked slowly, hands tucked into her coat pockets. "I wanted to say thank you again," Charlotte said, her voice quiet. "We just finished our third training session. One of our staff members told me it was the first time she'd ever been asked about her culture at work. Not in a checkbox way. Really asked." Vanessa smiled. "That's a start." Charlotte looked out at the garden, then added, "We have a new motto now too. It's printed on every welcome folder." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "Yeah." Charlotte nodded. "Everyone belongs." A soft silence stretched between them. Then Charlotte turned to go. As Vanessa watched her disappear back into the hotel, she whispered, "That's what it should have been from the beginning." Weeks later, the Baileys were back home, resuming the rhythm of life. Work, school, groceries, bedtime stories, laughter in the hallway. The world didn't stop spinning because of one family's stand, but it tilted just a little in a better direction. And sometimes that's enough. One quiet night, as Vanessa tucked Lila into bed, her daughter asked, "Mom, are you still mad about the hotel?" Vanessa paused. "No, baby," she said finally. "Because they listened. And because we didn't let it break us." Lila blinked sleepily. "It made us stronger?" Vanessa leaned down, kissed her forehead. "It made us unstoppable." And with that, the lights dimmed, the door clicked shut, and a new legacy continued, quiet, steady, and unshakably bold. At True Echo, we believe in stories that hold a mirror to the world, stories that expose injustice, celebrate resilience, and remind us of our shared humanity. Vanessa's journey is more than just one family's fight. It's a call to speak up, to stand tall, and to never let shame steal your voice. As Vanessa once said, "Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's choosing not to leave quietly." If this story moved you, please subscribe to True Echo for more powerful true stories. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear it.